Hello everyone, I'm Danica Cossio and today I'm here to discuss a project we recently undertook using AI and big data to identify recurrence and progression. Cancer Australia is progressing methodologies for collecting and collating data relating to cancer stage, treatment and the final part of the STAR project, recurrence. Cancer Australia contracted Cancer Alliance Queensland to take up the challenge to utilise administrative and clinical data to identify recurrence or progression for the top 5 incident cancers, being melanoma, lung, breast, colorectal and prostate. Cancer Australia sought the input of the Australian population-based cancer registries towards development of an agreed working definition of recurrence. It was proposed that a definition of recurrence broadly follows that of the Public Health England. A notification of cancer-free status would not readily be available in the population-based cancer registry setting. A minimum disease-free period was utilised as a proxy to determine disease-free status. Identification of recurrence and progression utilising administrative and clinical data linked to cancer register data is possible. Cancer Alliance Queensland, in partnership with the CSIRO, developed a methodology for the collection of cancer recurrence. Utilising natural language processing and customised business rules, the Queensland Oncology Repository was mined to identify clinical events that were suggestive of recurrence or progression, including radiological, pathological, surgery, systemic therapy, MDT information, and death events. Potential cases were then reviewed by expert clinical coders to confirm recurrence or progression. So let's go through a specific patient so you can see how this all works in practice. Let's call our patient James. Here you can see James was diagnosed via biopsy with rectal adenocarcinoma in July 2011. Natural language processing detects cancer-related terms for James. It's picked up rectum and adenocarcinoma. Cancer Alliance Queensland's technical specialists built automatic processes to import this case into the Queensland Cancer Register, where expert clinical coders confirm or correct the output of the natural language processing, in this case, verified. Once James's cancer is verified, the developed methodology scans the Queensland Oncology Repository looking for events relating to James's cancer journey. As you can see from this scrolling image of core, there are many records in the repository that relate to James. Admissions, systemic therapy, and radiation data, just to demonstrate a few. The methodology, developed in conjunction with clinicians, has proven successful and has identified that James has undergone a low anterior resection in December 2011. The corresponding pathology report for that resection is also identified by the methodology, and the report is processed by the natural language processing tool, and further tumour details, including explicit stage, are identified. For the purposes of this project, known stage 4 cases were excluded. The repository continues to be scanned and a radiological event is detected. In December 2012, James undergoes a PET scan. The tool identifies the scan contains recurrent terms, specifically recurrence and hepatic metastases. Noting here that negation is also applied to limit the false identification of recurrent terms. For example, where a radiologist states no evidence of recurrence or metastases, this would not be flagged for review. Also of note here is the categorisation of the results, with yellow denoting confirmed metastases and aqua denoting a suspicion of metastases. Then recurrence is confirmed or rejected by an expert clinical coder. In James's case, the pulmonary nodules that were reported as suspicious were later confirmed on a subsequent CT and added to his record, whereas a suspicious adrenal mass was later confirmed as an adenoma on CT, therefore was not recorded. All sites of recurrence are recorded, along with the originating source. For example, it was identified on the radiology report. So that brings us to the overall results of the project. James is just one example of 1,592 cases reviewed to confirm the methodology was working as expected. These cases formed the ground truth for the natural language processing tool to learn from. Sensitivity and specificity ranged from 71.4 for colorectal to 97.4 for melanoma. Colorectal sensitivity was the poorest, but this was expected as it was the first cancer to be investigated. Lessons learned from this cancer were then applied to the following 4 cancers, and the results improved significantly. If colorectal were to be reprocessed via the refined algorithm, the results would improve. There are limited published studies on the rates of recurrence and/or progression for population-wide cohorts. Denmark reported rates of recurrence using a similar algorithm-based approach, and their results are comparable to Queensland's, as you can see in this table. The 2-year recurrence rate for persons diagnosed with colorectal cancer ranges from 3.1 for stage 1 to 22.9% for stage 3 cases. The median time to recurrence was 11 months. Of the 5 cancers, lung was the most likely to recur, with 15.9 for stage 1, 31.3 for stage 2, and 40.8 for stage 3 cases recurring by year 2. People with stage 3 melanoma experience a 31.4% recurrence rate at 2 years. However, the incidence of this cohort was low, with under 50 cases compared to the over 2,000 stage 1 melanomas. Median time to breast cancer recurrence ranged from 19 to 30 months. Rates of recurrence were low for stage 1 and stage 2 cases at 3.1 and 8.9% respectively. Prostate cancer had the lowest recurrence rate, but this was expected as watchful waiting is common within this cohort. It's 0.6 for stage 1, 3.8 for stage 2, and 9.4 for stage 3. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Cancer Alliance Queensland team members for taking on this challenging task and acknowledge our long-standing collaboration with CSIRO and the support of Cancer Australia. Thank you.